Sahana vavatu, sahana bunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai. Tejasvinavadidamastu mavir vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Hari Om, and thank you all so much for tuning in to the next of this series on the 8-limb path. Today we're covering the last of the Yamas, the last of those, the first limb. There's been 5 components over in total. So remember, if you need to catch up, you can always go back and check out those previous videos. And yeah, let's jump right into it. We've covered Ahimsa, we've covered Satya, Asteya, and Brahmacharya. And of course, I am just giving you guys the very surface. I know that I'm trying to bring it in more in depth. I'm bringing it more relatable. I'm trying to use analogy and examples to make it so that you can have the understanding kind of ingrained into you if that's what you're looking for. So with that is going to come extra contemplation. Okay, you can't just take a little bit of a lesson and immediately infuse it into your practice. It's going to take your own contemplation, your own deepening of the understanding before you can actually utilize that. Okay, think of it as having some kind of machinery, some kind of power tool. You need it to be connected to power before you can actually go at using it. But not only that, you need to understand the tool. You need to know how it works, otherwise you might injure yourselves. So in the same way, when we have this tool, yes, we need to connect it to the, almighty one true source, but we also need to understand what we're doing. We have to have that understanding. And you're going to hear me say that kind of thing a lot, that the knowledge is so necessary, that the understanding is required, and it's true. So that's why this series has come to life. That's why this channel has come to life, so that we could be knowledgeable and understanding when we approach this sacred science, so that we can get the most out of it. And oh my goodness, there's so much to gain. So we've covered those first 4 yamas, and now we are going to be covering the 5th yama. And they only get more important. They only get more in depth. Not to say the first one is the most important, but as we go through them, they become much more challenging. We kind of challenge ourselves with these limbs. So Brahmacharya obviously is a great example of that. It's not to say, you're not challenging yourself to be less violent. You're not challenging yourself to be more honest. Just being a humane person will bring these things out of you. But challenging ourselves in Brahmachari, that might be possible for us, and certainly in this last one. And yes, I know I haven't said it yet, and I'm not going to, but because first I want to say, if you find yourself enjoying this video, please drop a like on the video. Subscribe if you want to see more, and share if you know other like-minded people that might be seeking out this knowledge. I have to do it. It's a little call to action. It's going to help the channel grow and the outreach for all these different lessons grow. So thank you guys so much for all that. Okay, now the 5th yama. It is aparigraha. Aparigraha. And like ahimsa, like asteya, we hear ah. We hear it, there's a negating at the beginning. Negates whatever the next term is. So ahimsa, no violence. Asteya, no stealing. Parigraha, no parigraha. Okay? Parigraha is to grab, is to grasp, is to hold things, and to accumulate things. So we're going to have a fun time with this one, because there's many different layers to what we're holding on to. First and foremost, we don't want to accumulate possessions. And the easiest example there is to just say a hoarder. Don't be a hoarder. Don't accumulate unnecessary things, unless they're books. Collect books. Read them. Don't just collect them, read them. But don't collect things. Don't collect things just for the sake of collecting them. Now, I understand in this modern world we have things like style and fashion and it's appropriate to have more than one pair of shoes because you need to match it with your outfit, and this hat goes with these shoes, and this belt goes with this watch. I don't know, because I'm not really into that, as you might come to find more and more if you follow the channel. But I'm not perfect either. I collect things that I've had throughout my life, throughout from my youth even. But those kinds of things, as we notice that they don't have any more value to us, if they're not adding value to our lives directly and actually adding value, real value, not monetary value, but they have utility, they have purpose in our life. If it's not going to check those boxes, then it's just not worth carrying around. I have to be very grateful to my wife for helping me with some of this, because when we did move from Florida, we got a storage container. We put in enough that could fit the things that were required, and everything else we donated. She was really good at that. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't really that good at it, but it was a big lesson for me. So we might have those moments that we could reflect on in our own lives where we had to let something go. And what happened? Did we lose sleep over it? Was it something that was really going to drag us down? No, it was material. It was just a possession. So, aparigraha, lose that idea of possessiveness, that I own, that I claim. That's the second part, that concept of possessiveness. Because though you might own something, that is just on the surface. That is still in this world of kleshas, the obstacles. The first is avidya, is our ignorance to what the truth of this reality around us is, and that really starts with our idea of possessiveness, that I am, that I claim. So when we do have things that we are noticing that we claim as far as our perception, we can start to let those things go as well. That's obviously not going to be the more tangible and more approachable for people, and this is why there is the self-challenge. This is the challenge to yourself. What part of your perception can you drop away? What part of your ego can you let slip away? What part will you let go of that doesn't want to be let go of? Okay, it's not the easy things. It's not, I used to eat 15 chocolate bars a day. Now I only eat one. I've dropped my possessiveness to chocolate, or I only have I have it once a week now. That's not really the challenge to this extent. This is a perception as far as, more parts of the kleshas, more parts of the obstacles. It's likes and dislikes, or ragas and dveshas. So if we're still claiming these things, I like these things, I need more of these things, then we're going to have bound to that some kind of reaction, okay? And I dislike these things, I try to avoid these things. There too, there is a reaction. So the reaction is going to be based in the person's emotional perception, right? Their own perception, their emotional connection to that thing is what creates the raga and dvesha and the subsequent reaction. So let's use an example, as we do, okay? Let's use the chocolate bar example. Let's say I hate chocolate. It's just disgusting. I can't look at it. I can't smell it. If it's near me, I get sick. Awful. I'm not allergic to it. I just hate it. I really don't, but examples. And then there's another person that loves chocolate. When they have a piece of chocolate, the clouds part, birds sing, it's just heavenly for them. Absolute heaven. Is it the chocolate? Is it the chocolate that elicits that heavenly reaction? Is it the chocolate that elicits my disgusted reaction? No. It's the individual's perception of the chocolate. The chocolate's just sitting there. It's doing nothing. But what do we do in life? We connect our emotional reaction, our emotional, roller coaster, if you will, to our ragas and dveshas, our likes and our dislikes. So we think that if we get more of the thing we like, I like chocolate, so I like one piece, then I must love 2 pieces, and I did 10 pieces, oh man, that's just, I'm elated. And the opposite, if I have 10 pieces, I'm happy, but if you take away 5, I'm less happy, and if you take them all away, now I'm miserable. So we've connected our likes to our emotional reaction, but we should be able to take a step back and see that the object itself is not the giver or the taker of your joy. Okay? It doesn't give you more. It doesn't take anything away if it's lost. So, where does the joy come from? And how on God's green earth is this now part of my lesson on aparigraha, the letting go of the grasp? Well, because you're the source of the joy. You're the source of the happiness. You're the source of that bliss you feel when you're reacting with something that you like. Okay? And you're also the source of the misery, but it's not because you're the source of misery. It's because you're accepting the absence of joy. The joy is not there, but you are still there. So if you are the source of your joy, when something that you like is present, why can't you be the source of your joy when something you dislike is present, or when something you like is taken away? I'll answer for you. Don't answer. You can be. You can be. It comes from the practice of aparigraha, letting go. So very often in this world, in this yogic community, I hear this overused and misused, really. Detach, detach, detach. So detachment is not what we're looking for, okay? It's not letting go and then just leaving it and I used to like that thing, I've convinced myself I don't like it anymore. No, those taste buds might still, they still do. They like chocolate. That mind's reaction to the taste buds is still gonna be, I like chocolate. You're just not letting go of chocolate. What you do is you let go of the claim of that perception. You observe, okay? These words in Sanskrit, for example, the letting go, okay? It's called vairagya, and I'm going to be using dispassion, okay? That's how it's translated. Something like the witness, drashtu, the drashtu. So you'll come to a point in this channel where I'll be using the Sanskrit terms, and you'll know what I'll be saying. I'll of course give the easier translation right then and there, but you'll have a grander understanding from previous lessons. So this is one of those. The drashtu, the witness. You'll be witnessing the mind's reaction to the outside world. It reacts first to the senses. So if the tongue tastes chocolate and the mind likes chocolate, we're not going to punish the mind. The mind likes chocolate. It's part of nature. The mind's nature for that individual is to enjoy chocolate. It's not a bad thing. When they witness the mind, okay, you witness the mind liking the chocolate. You witness the mind enjoying the sensual stimulus. But you're not the mind. Okay, you're the witness. You're not the mind. So that is one of the final stages of aparigraha, is letting go of what we're going to call the subtle body, the shukshma sharira, the subtle body, to the extent that your standpoint shifts from the mind reacting to senses, to drashtu, to the witness watching the instruments, if you will. Okay? It's watching its tools that it uses, the intellect, the mind, the senses, the body. All right? So I should probably give a lesson on the subtle body. Just trying to keep these at like 20 minutes each, and I'm realizing I'm about 15 minutes in. I don't know if I have enough time. Um, I'll list them right now. Okay, I'll list them right now. We're not going to go through them in Sanskrit, but I'll list them so that you can start this practice of withdrawal from the Shukshma Sharira, the changing, shifting of the standpoint. Okay, there's also the organs of action. Now, those I will keep for another day, but they're very simply understood. The body's going to move, the body's going to talk, the body's going to do these different things, and the things that it does is because of certain organs of action. All right, so we'll get there. But first, let's start, just because I mentioned it, we start with the furthest out. The way that the body interacts with the world is through the senses. So those 5 senses, they all interact with the material world around us. The mind, mana, okay, the indriyas are the senses. I'm doing it anyway. Senses, indriyas. Next is the mana, the mind. And that's going to calculate what the senses are interacting with. It's going to process. And then it's going to react. It's going to start to formulate a reaction. Okay? For most of this, it's recognition. It's instant recall even. Oh, such a divine gift. Oh my goodness. We'll get into that. We got a lot to cover. But instant recall, such a divine reaction. Right there, on this, right here, these things right here. You don't even have to think. As soon as I point to them, you don't have to think, what are those? Your mind instantly recalls what they are. So that's the thinking mind. That's the reacting mind. Okay, but it has to have a backup. It has to have a team because it doesn't work on its own like that. So the next part is the intellect, okay, the bodhi. You've heard this word a lot, I'm sure. Bodhi. This is the intellect that knows, all right? This is the knowledge, the bank of knowledge in the mind, or in the subtle body. So the mind sees something, it goes to process it, it goes to react, and it has to know what the reaction would be, so the intellect feeds what it's previously interacted with. Okay, I've seen this before. I know what a book is. I've seen book, I've read book. Anyone's always told me this is book, so I know. My intellect knows it's book. There's no confusing it, okay? The mind can be tricked. The mind can be confused. For example, if I held a straight ruler, okay, a yardstick, and I had a bucket of water, and I put the yardstick into the bucket of water, the water would make it appear that the stick had a bend in it, curve. But your intellect would know that stick is straight. That yardstick is straight as an arrow. When I pull it out, sure enough, your intellect was right, but your mind was fooled. Okay, so your mind can be fooled quite easily. The senses, they can be fooled very easily, but the intellect knows. Okay, so we got to train the intellect to know, and that's really what we're doing whenever we study, whenever we do satsang, whenever we do pravachan. We're studying to really train the intellect to know the truth, to have absolute conviction in the truth, rather than what the senses and the mind might be convinced of. Really like that. Next is the chitta. So the chitta is the memory storage area. Okay, it's got within it all of our past things that we've perceived, we've interacted with, things that we've inferred. It includes within it our memories. It also includes our dreamless state, our nidra. So that's one of the vrittis, and we'll get there. Excuse me. But that is, it's where we get our memories. It's where we pull from. Okay? So the chitta also can be confused because it's been trained by the mind. It's been trained by the mind's interactions, perceptions. Okay? So that can also be fooled, but it can also help us remember things. So that's one that's kind of tricky. We're going to use our chitta, and then we're going to lose our chitta. We'll get to that another day. And lastly, what do we have lastly? Sitting back there, kind of holding the gears, holding the controls of it all, is ahankar. Ahankar is the ego, okay? The I am, all right? Beyond that is the true self. Ahankar isn't the true self. That's I am, ahankar. But The am is ahankar. The claim is ahankar. The true self is the I. Is the I, pure I. I. The self, the soul, the spirit, whatever you want to call it, the self. Now, we'll even find delineations between those words when soul and self will be two different words. But for now, we'll keep it there. Aparigraha. Drop it. Let it go. Let it go in the standpoint as far as your perception of it. But also let it go if you find things around you that aren't bringing you utility in life. People, places, patterns in your life, habits. Be willing to let them go. Be willing to change, to shift, to switch tracks at a moment's notice, because that's what this life is going to require, and especially on this kind of a path. If you're on this yogic path, you better be quick on your feet. You better be ready to react, but in the proper way, with the knowledge, with the understanding. Because otherwise it's going to become very bumpy road, and it's that's when a lot of people look for that next exit. It's going to be a path with thorns out in front and a cliff edges, and you got to know, do you turn back? Do you sit down? Or do you keep going forward? Aparigraha. Challenge yourself with this one, and remember that it's all in love. It's all in love for the true self, that true absolute self. So that wraps up the yamas. Okay, obviously we could go on and on. I could cover each one of the yamas for a full hour. I'm not going to bore you guys with that, but there's more to come. There's so much more to come. Next, we're going to cover the niyamas. That's the second limb of yoga. So the first limb, the ethics, the controls, the proper approach. Okay, the second limb is the kind of disciplines. All right, in some ways they're going to be restraints on our lives. In some ways they're going to be things that really drive us and push us. And a couple of them are even just instruction. A couple of these are just what to do in the same way that the yamas were, but on a we get to go deeper. We get to go more introspective in those. So we're climbing the ladder, we're climbing the limbs, and I am so, so grateful that you guys are along for the ride. I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you for watching, and if you made it this far and you haven't already, please go ahead, drop the like if you found it entertaining or educational at all. And if you'd like to see more, subscribe. And I'll also say this, because I know we are a very tight-knit group, share it with your friends. Share with the people that you know are seeking yoga or teaching yoga, and this can be something that really helps their practice, helps their teaching, or maybe helps them even approach the practice, thinking that it's, not being told now, what the practice really can envelop, rather than just jumping on the mat and going into the postures without these first two limbs being understood. So yeah, so many reasons to, but I hope that you share to like minds and souls out there. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as we do with every class, we close with mantra. Hope you have a beautiful day, everyone. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.